Hey everybody, this is the Day Ghost. I'm Austin, and today we're going to be looking at Goldfinger. So Dr. No and From Russia with Love are very much the kind of prototype Bond films, while Goldfinger comes in and cements the formula down and is just quintessential Bond on film. Starting with the beginning of the film, we get the first of Bond just on a different mission that has nothing to do with the rest of the movie for the pre-title sequence, where we get Bond, doing this action scene with this factory and then going up to this woman. They, make out, and Bond sees in her eye that somebody's sneaking up on him, so he uses her as a shield, and then he kills the guy by electrocuting him, where we get the always classic shocking, positively shocking one-liner. And then we go straight into the intro, which is, it's the Bond song that all of the other Bond songs for the most part are looking back at, I think. And it's not my favorite of the songs, but I think overall it's pretty good. And of course, it's a Shirley Bassey song, and she'll come back 2 more times, almost 3 more times, but we'll get there with Quantum. And I think it's her best song, possibly, maybe second. But it's a pretty solid Bond song. It's a good kind of starter song. Obviously, From Russia with Love had a song, but it's a very different kind of sound to it. Connery himself is very much just at the peak of his Bond here, where Connery very clearly cares that he's doing this movie and he's having a lot of fun with the material, as opposed to moving forward after this, where it's a downhill slope and he very clearly doesn't want to be there anymore. We also get Q here, Desmond Llewellyn, and again, we've cemented down this is what Q is. We get Bond going through his laboratory where we see different gadgets being worked on, and Bond gets his Aston Martin DB5, the greatest car of all time. It's James Bond's car. Like, obviously, different actors get different cars, but that just is Bond's car. So early on in the film, Bond, he's at a resort, and he finds Goldfinger cheating at cards, thanks to Felix Leiter, who's back. And again, that actor, just like Dr. No, is just kind of nothing to me, honestly. He's just kind of there. But Bond, he, kind of points out that Goldfinger's cheating by finding... So Goldfinger, how he's cheating is that he's playing cards, and the person that he's playing against has their back to this building, where he has Jill Masterson looking down from a balcony and telling him what the guy's cards are. And Bond obviously finds this out, goes to her and humiliates Goldfinger. And then from there, we get the very famous, recognizable image of Jill Masterson painted in gold, and she's dead on the bed, which is probably the most famous image in all of Bond. And it's something, obviously, we homage a lot. One thing that's kind of interesting with this movie is that with the first two, Dr. No, for example, is introduced about an hour and a half into that film, and then he's just kind of there. From Russia with Love, they really improve on the villains, but they don't really interact with Bond all that much. They have a scene or two with him, depending on which villain. But here with Goldfinger, he and Bond are interacting throughout the movie, and that's just a very big part of it, because the first two are slow with quotation marks, because I don't think they're boring movies, but they're more methodical in their pacing, and they're more 60s-ish in that way, because obviously, 60s films were a bit slower. But this film is we're always moving forward to the next action piece, the next character interaction, and so much of this movie is just Bond and Goldfinger, just it interacting. We get the big golf scene where they're playing together, which is a great sequence, and then Bond is on Goldfinger's kind of base, if you will, through most of the movie. After a certain point, when he gets kidnapped, and we get the big famous laser scene where Bond asks, do you expect me to talk? And Goldfinger says, no, I expect you to die. Goldfinger, of course, also has maybe the best plan out of any Bond film, in that he's going to irradiate Fort Knox to drive up the price of gold, and the Chinese who are helping him do this will benefit, and all of their gold will be worth a lot more. I like how Goldfinger, because he keeps Bond alive, because Bond says that if Goldfinger kills him, then 008, who knows everything that he does, will show up. So obviously Goldfinger needs to keep Bond alive so that MI6 will think, okay, well, 007's on the job, he's got it all handled. And Felix is also monitoring him, so they're also kind of keeping Bond looking like he's not kidnapped, like he's just there kind of infiltrating them. And Goldfinger has a kind of inferiority complex, if you will, in that he's kind of delighted by the fact that he's 3 steps ahead of Bond, who thinks that his plot is more like the actual plot of the book, where Goldfinger's gonna go into Fort Knox and just rob it. Oh, I should also mention Goldfinger is dubbed in this movie, which is really interesting because I don't think it's super noticeable. Like, obviously there are places where you can kind of tell, but also it's just very impressive how well the voice and the physical actor kind of blend together and make this character. We also get Pussy Galore, who was one of the better Bond girls. Definitely, she got the most famous name. But she's played by Honor Blackman, who was on the Avengers TV show. And so she was a more recognizable name for the time for this kind of genre, and I think that's probably why she wasn't dubbed, because most Bond girls are dubbed. I mean, the villain in this movie is dubbed. Yeah, she's there, and they mostly drop the fact that she's a lesbian from the books. Here it's mostly just kind of hinted at. But she's, helping Goldfinger out, and then ends up helping Bond. She's also a pilot, and, she kind of helps to what they think is that they're gassing the people at Fort Knox, but that's not what ends up happening. It ends up being faked. This film also has one of the more famous Bond villain henchmen in Odd Job, who is exactly kind of what I described Red Grant as not being in the last film, and that he doesn't speak, and he has the gimmick that we all know, he throws his hat and it can cut or break things, and that's mostly it. Like, he's this big hulking villain for Bond to fight, or struggle to fight, and he works for what he is. Obviously he's not really a character in this movie, but the fight scene with the two of them is pretty fun. The action in general in this movie, I think, is all really good. There's a great kind of chase scene through Goldfinger's base with the Aston Martin DB5, which is really fun. The Odd Job Bond fight is really good. It's definitely still a 60s kind of fight scene, but I think it's still enjoyable. I like the Fort Knox attack. I like that when Goldfinger realizes that the Americans are going to take back the fort, that he's already prepared for for this, and has a American soldier uniform underneath his clothes, and he kills the kind of Chinese man that he's working with, and then also kills some American soldiers in order to escape. Then, of course, the movie ends on a plane where Goldfinger, just like Rosa Klebb, we do that thing where Bond is with the Bond girl, and then the villain, or one of the villains from the movie, comes back, and this time it's Goldfinger with his gold revolver. And he also clearly has a henchman in the background who they edited out in a way. Like, we don't see Bond fight him, but he's just in the background of shots, which is a little amusing if you notice that. But Goldfinger, of course, gets just a really great death where he gets sucked out of the plane. It's so good. It definitely looks a little dated, but it's a lot of fun. So in conclusion, I think Goldfinger is just a lot of fun. I mean, there's not really much that you can say about it that hasn't been said. It is just quintessential Bond. Um, but it'll be interesting next time. We got Thunderball, which personally is a film I find to be a little dull, but we'll see how it goes this time. But let me know in the comments what you think about Goldfinger. I'm excited to hear from you guys.